scouting combine is upon us. I am Field Yates, and the man
Here we go.
who is synonymous with not
First
just
12
the NFL
rounds.
draft, but the NFL combine, because we might not cover it like we do if not for Mel Kiper Jr. Good morning, my friend.
Field, great to be with you. We got a great exercise today with the top 12 picks. We're going to try to
Arguably is one of the
who
best
we
times
would
of the
take
year.
and who we think that team.
I think the
will
NFL
take.
offseason
kind of
pre-draft
combination of both.
is
Field, it's a great exercise.
almost just as fun as doing
because
so.
a lot of these kids, depending upon what happens in Indy, will either move up or move down. So, and of course, Pro Day is coming up thereafter. But it's a good way to see where kids are right now, prior to the combine, and how they may change in terms of their rating and their projection once we get out of Indy and move through the process.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many of the players that we talk
I
about
actually
right
like
now,
thinking about the
Mel,
exercise
actually
that
do
way
take
for
parts
mock
in
drafts.
on-field
So
drills at the combine.
who would
As
I
anybody
take
who follows the draft
versus
closely
what
knows,
do you
players
think
at
the
very
team
top
will
of the heap
actually do
oftentimes
can
make
be
a
different
business
things, so it's
decision and
important
say,
to
if you don't
talk
realize
about
I'm special
that. I like
based
that
off
take.
the tape, you're not going to learn that much more about me playing in shorts and a t-shirt on the combine field there in Indianapolis. So you said it, Mel. We're going to go through the first 12 picks. I am general manager of Team Odds. You are general manager of Team Even. So every pick, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 will be yours. I will have 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And 11
So
as
it's
well.
March
Reminder, by the
2nd
way,
for
the
me.
first
The
draft
combine
will
is
be
now
wherever you get your
done.
podcast.
So I'll put
We're
another
also
one of
on
these
YouTube
out
Mondays
post-combine and see what they
Thursdays.
change.
Without further ado, though, Mel, I'm going to put my Ryan Poles cap on, as I am the general manager of the Chicago Bears, and I have the first pick in this mock draft. And I will go with, to the surprise of very few people, Caleb Williams, quarterback, USC. And you and I have had this discussion about whether the Bears should be restarting the clock right now or sticking with Justin Fields. We recently both said that we will be trading Justin Fields, recouping whatever value we can get, and leaning towards.
All right, so they're going to go every other
This
odd
past
even for the
season
first 12
had maybe
picks.
a little bit of a down year relative to the season he had 2 seasons ago, and yet, Mel, still 30-plus passing touchdowns, 10-plus rushing touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. The most dynamic quarterback inside and outside of the pocket, throwing on the run, an incredible profile and pedigree, a true third-year junior, so he is a younger prospect as well, Mel. To me, Caleb Williams.
Share in the comments if any of you guys have seen any legitimate mocks not having Caleb go number 1. I would love to see it.
Yeah, Field, I think it gets down to, will the Bears be blown away by an offer where they don't have to move down very far, okay, and they can get an elite player like a Marvin Harrison Jr. to pair opposite DJ Moore, right? If you're going to move forward with Justin Fields, and you get a lot of other picks in return if somebody says, hey, we want Caleb Williams. We feel he is the next potentially Patrick Mahomes. We're going to give you the ranch. We're going to give you everything, right? Yeah. If they get blown away by an offer, will they forget about, hey, resetting the clock and just say, hey, we had a push on these two. It's tough to make a decision.
I don't see the Bears getting enough to move
the
out
progress
at all.
He's made.
Even if they went down to
get
2 or
maybe
3,
that
I just don't
level
see it
in that
happening.
elite group, but he's not there yet. We think Caleb can be as well, but we're kind of up in the air on both. We haven't made that decision. Well, the decision is going to be made by 2 things, Field. That's resetting the clock, or if you're blown away by an offer.
Right.
I mean, a monumental offer comes your way with multiple high picks. You can move down and still get Marvin Harrison Jr., right? You're not going to get much in return for Justin Fields. You've gone on record, Fields. We talked about it on the Dari and Mel show Saturday. 2nd-round pick, 4th-round pick, that's about it, right?
Yep.
For Caleb, you're going to get a haul. So if you get that haul and you don't worry about resetting the clock and you say, okay, I'm going to take my chance. I think Justin can get to that Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, okay, Joe Burrow level. Nobody's getting to Mahomes' level.
Right.
Nobody's getting to Mahomes' level. Okay? But can you get to where Josh, Lamar, and Burrow are? That's the thing you have to think
I
about.
believe the number 1 pick,
the
number 1 pick for Carolina last year was already moved by this time.
Based on what we've seen in college,
so we should have been hearing more about it.
So I think this is a tough decision for
They're sticking
Ryan
and
Poles.
picking,
I do think how much of an offer he gets for that number 1 pick overall, to me, Field has to factor into the decision here.
No 2 ways about that, Mel. By the way, I don't want to make it seem like the players that are being taken after Caleb Williams at the quarterback spot are major consolation prizes. You and I have said it a million times. These 3 quarterbacks at the very top are all outstanding. I think Caleb does rise above the rest in the interest of fairness and balance. A couple of areas that Caleb Williams probably needs to improve upon with the Chicago Bears in this scenario. One, Mel, would be that not every play has to be the swing for the fences opportunity, right? Sometimes it's okay to just take the single, move the sticks a little bit here to borrow a football analogy, which I suppose would be appropriate for a football conversation, and just do the easy thing instead of always trying to do the wow thing And then ball security, 16 fumbles for Caleb Williams during his college career, Mel. Got to hold on to that ball with 2 hands at all times. Both coachable traits.
Who do we hear a lot about? Who were they saying that about even up till today?
Yeah.
Josh Allen.
Yeah,
my guy Josh.
Totally.
They had critics. Everybody hated him. All those ex-quarterbacks, college and NFL, that were evaluating the quarterbacks in that draft hated Josh Allen.
Right.
Hated him. Okay? Now they love Josh Allen, right? But they still question all those things you said. So even once you've been in the league a while and you have that mentality of being a Superman out there and doing things, and you got to kind of balance out taking plays. You can't make plays without taking chances.
No two ways
That's why
about it.
interceptions sometimes are a little overrated. So, I mean, I know a quarterback threw 3 picks in the
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
Josh
and
Allen had a
MVP
lot of
not that long
accuracy
ago.
ball security problems
long
early in his
everybody,
career,
that was
too,
Terry
so.
Bradshaw, right? Back in the late 70s.
Wasn't drafted at
Not long
101,
for me.
though.
I was at 18, 19 at the time. Bottom line is, Field, Caleb Williams could be a grand slam. Justin Fields could be as well. So he's shown the ability maybe to get to that point. So I think it's a very, very difficult decision for GM Ryan Poles.
Okay, I think it's a difficult decision for GM Mel Kiper Jr. as the Washington Commanders at pick number 2. So who are you taking now with Caleb Williams off the board?
Make that attempt to go up to 1. He's a local product from Gonzaga High School. I watched him play high school football. Washington would love to get him. You're in the NFC. If you get a Patrick Mahomes type, he's not going to be Mahomes. So if you get a guy who can be in that elite group, then you take a chance and go get him. Now, do you think what's the difference between Caleb and Jaden or Caleb and Drake? You know, based on the way Drake may played towards the end of this year, you'd say it's a little gap there. Drake didn't catch up, even though Caleb had some struggles.
I think it's a money thing. Reset the clock. Why force yourself to have to give Fields a contract?
But he showed that he could be, as Herm
I'm
Edwards
tired of
said,
hearing,
Randall Cunningham.
oh, he finished the year much better.
Lamar Jackson, if he's coached
said that for 3
up and
years.
in the right situation. I'm going to go here. Caleb Williams 1. I'm going to go Jaden Daniels. Based on all that momentum and how he played and being that great dual threat, added some weight to that frame, did everything the right way at LSU this year. He balanced out, as you said, Field, taking shots, trying to be Superman. He balanced that out, right? With not turning the ball over, not throwing interceptions, not fumbling the ball away, playing against elite competition, yet frustrating all those defensive coordinators and head coaches in the SEC who could not figure out a way to contain him, let alone stop him. So Jaden Daniels, to me, comes in with that positive
Took Jaden
momentum.
Daniels at 2
He did
here.
virtually nothing wrong this year. He had a defense couldn't stop anybody. He had to put points on the board late. He did that in a lot of games. I'll go for Washington. If they're unable to move up to 1, they get Caleb Williams, and they sit at 2, taking Jaden Daniels, quarterback from LSU.
Mel, I want to give you a stat here, some stats here, because I was talking to you before the show, but I've had the chance to kind of access some
Guy's
of our
electric, I'm
stats
being honest.
databases.
Size will
As we're
always be a
going through our
concern, but the guy
evaluations
didn't turn the
to
ball
see
over.
whether the film matches up with the stats. How about this? When blitzed
Every other
in
quarterback in this class
2023,
turned the ball over more than
Jaden
him.
Daniels completed 71.1%
JJ is pretty good about not
of his
turning the ball over,
passes.
but
He threw 17 touchdowns, and he had 0 picks. So what that was telling you is that, hey, when he's blitzed, if you're trying to bring the house
7
and trying to
interceptions
neutralize
last 2 years.
Jaden Daniels, it may not work for you. Conversely, when teams dropped into zone coverage, Jaden Daniels this year completed 77.6% of his passes, 2,438 yards with 20 touchdowns and no interceptions, Mel. The bottom line is this: pick your poison when trying to defend Jaden Daniels. You and I have been incredible fans of Jaden Daniels throughout this process. No surprise that he is one of the top 3 picks, although I think it is a healthy debate at pick number 2, which leads me, Mel, to pick number 3. And I'll make this one really simple because there's one quarterback left over for a team that is absolutely desperate for a quarterback. That's the New England Patriots. So zero surprise, Mel.
Wow.
I'm taking Drake May, North Carolina
Okay.
quarterback who just a redshirt
Quickly on
sophomore.
that,
He's
76% completion percentage
at
against
the collegiate
zone
level.
already
I'm
is
not saying
incredible.
that age, guys who are a
They
little
don't
bit
run
older,
as much
like Jaden
zone in
Daniels,
college
is a major
in general
detriment.
as they do in the
I also
NFL.
think that we should acknowledge
I think
that
they say
Drake May
30 to
is
50% of the time
2
college
younger
defenses run
than
zone. In the
Jaden
NFL,
Daniels.
it's more
He
like
just
50 to
turned 21 years
70%.
old recently, so the developmental
20 touchdowns, no
upside
interceptions.
is very
I mean,
high, and while it was
that's
not a great
that's a
finish
great
to the
sign
season
there.
relative to the start of the season, it was a great
All right,
start
Drake
to the
May
season
still going to the
for
Patriots here.
Drake May. Mel, that game against South Carolina, a big game for that
Redshirt
state
sophomore.
well, a big game for both states, I suppose, North and South Carolina. He was excellent. 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against a Miami defense that is going to have a couple of guys drafted from the secondary. This player has shown a ton of upside, and he is a strike thrower, Mel. I know that we have been talking a lot about Jaden Daniels, but you and I both agree that Drake May still has all the goods to be a
Drake May didn't finish well, but
franchise-type quarterback in the NFL.
That team also just had no weapons.
You just hope, feel that they will build that offensive line up, get some receivers. They did not Mac Jones out to dry. They didn't give Mac Jones a fighting chance.
I saw a take that said
Drake Mayer, you got
if he had decided to transfer for this last year, say he went to Ohio State, Alabama,
hopefully they handle a situation.
we'd be talking about the surefire number one
around
pick
Drake Mayer a lot better than they did with one Mac Jones. So again, you're in the AFC, you're in a division with Josh. You're certainly talking about the greatness of Josh Allen. We're talking about what Tua can do, and Aaron Rodgers is coming back for a couple more years, right? And you're in the AFC loaded with players like the elite Patrick Mahomes, who's one of the greatest of all time. You gotta hope that Drake May can be that guy. And the only way he will be, Field, is for the organization to do what they need to do, which is what everybody needs to do: help your quarterback out. Don't forget about him. Remember when Houston forgot about David Carr? How'd that work out, right?
Well, yeah.
They forgot about Mac Jones. Drake May's a lot more talented than Mac, but every quarterback needs some assistance up front, unless you're Mahomes, who can win with anybody. So, Drake May, no question, at 3. If it goes the way we have figured it out, 1 and 2.
It's going to be a rough situation for New England fans, I'm telling you.
Yeah, 2 important parts of that.
They don't have the weapons they need on offense.
We recently got the salary cap number for the 2024 league year. It's huge. It rose by nearly $30 million. The Patriots were already equipped with a lot of space. They've got a whole bunch more. Is there going to
Jets,
be,
Bills,
once we
Dolphins?
have the finalized credits from last year, which I know that's very inside
Patriots
baseball
are probably
stuff.
still
Salary
last in the division this year.
The Patriots have a ton of resources to spend at wide receiver and left tackle in free agency. Additionally, that top of the second round pick could be a spot for the Patriots to land a supporting cast to help Drake May, because you are correct. No matter how great you are, nobody can do it without a whole bunch of help. 3 picks, 3 quarterbacks. Coming up next here on First Draft, we continue with our mini mock draft, the top 12 picks. Will a quarterback finally cop with the board? Find out next.
Yeah.
All right, back here on First Draft. He is Mel Kiper Jr. I am Field Yates, and we are going back and forth picks 1 through 12. Mel has the evens. I have the odds. He was very gentlemanly, magnanimous to give me
good
odds
players
selection.
don't want to go to bad teams,
but Mel, you are
so
now
they're going to have to spend more than they should have
to
get Drake May some
Cardinals,
talent.
who, by the way,
around him.
about an hour before our show began, decided to put on Twitter, which I know, Mel, you love the Twitter, the Cardinals, their franchise quarterback, and it was just a big picture of Kyler Murray. So they are out of the quarterback business. Which way do they go instead?
Well, you got to help Kyler Murray out, and this is an easy one. I don't even have to go to my sheet jet field and my ratings board, because it's Marvin Harrison Jr. And you think about Marvin Harrison Jr., yes, he had a couple drops, right? You get the ability to make contested catches. His father was a great player with that great work ethic, great passion for the game. Marvin Harrison Jr. has exactly that as well, with more imposing size than his dad had coming out of Syracuse back in the day. So for Marvin Harrison Jr., you have another pick in the late first round field.
If you guys have seen any legitimate mocks with Marvin Harrison not going to the Cardinals at 4,
Drake May goes to New England. The O-line receivers need to be picked up to pick up the pace there, improve the talent base, right? Well, the bottom line is Arizona.
Hollywood Brown's leaving.
Get a receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr.
And Michael
then
Wilson,
come back,
I guess,
whether it's Graham Barton, the all-around swingman type out of Duke, can play
MHJ
anywhere.
with Trey McBride.
Interior guy, probably guard center, or
Kyler's looking better.
Mims or Taylor Guyton. Mims from Georgia, Guyton from Oklahoma. There's going to be
give the Rams a run for their money in the division.
Interior and offensive tackle.
I don't think it's going to be Seattle.
It will be in the mix for Arizona in the late first round, but get the great receiver who is a nightmare to match up against with these smaller corners that don't have the length, the physicality, the catch radius of Marvin Harrison Jr.
Mel, I don't really have much of an argument or much of a debate with Marvin Harrison Jr. going forth, given the Cardinals' needs and also the level
almost identical
of prospect
seasons
that he is. There's only one thing that I want to say, and I don't know if this sounds outrageous, Mel, because I don't think it is outrageous, and I think the people in the NFL might see it similarly. Marvin Harrison Jr. is an outstanding prospect and the #1 wide receiver on my board. That gap between him and Malik Neighbors from
Can't wait to
LSU,
watch this guy.
doesn't feel that dramatic to me. I just can't.
They said if he declared last year, he would have been
run the 40 this week.
wide receiver 1 of the class still.
How fast he runs and how that might change the narrative, even if just a little bit, surrounding Malik Neighbors, who's just so incredibly explosive. But Marvin Harrison Jr., a hard guy to pick against in this exercise. And now things get interesting, though. I feel like it's my first difficult pick. At number 5 overall, I'm the Los Angeles Chargers.
I'm getting my sheets.
You got your sheets ready, Mel?
I'm ready now.
The sheets are ready.
Yep.
Chargers are on the clock here at pick 5. As of this mock draft, they still have Mike Williams. They still have Keenan Allen on the roster.
That's what everybody's saying.
March actions lead to April
We know that
reactions.
Neighbors didn't run the 40 now.
So for all those factors, I'm going with Joe Alt.
It's kind of like
Offensive
1A,
tackle,
1B.
Notre Dame. This is where I had him in my mock draft 1.0. And Mel, you and I have talked about not just what the player brings to the table, but also the fundamental
Would he have been the wide receiver one
Part of
last
the
year if he
player brings to
declared
the
and
table,
had that
you were
season?
talking about a 6'8",
Over JSN?
122-pound
Maybe.
dancing bear who is so incredibly composed. Rarely gets beat.
Chargers at 5. This is where the draft
Now, he
really
can
starts, in my
Move some
opinion.
bodies around in the running game. This is a player who's got some excellent bloodlines. His father was a first-round pick.
Talked a lot about
Chiefs
Harbaugh in this
out
pick
of
in my,
Iowa some 30 years ago.
previous
This kid
video.
was
Take a
born
look.
to play in the NFL, Mel, and I believe, when listening to the comments from
Yeah, this is
Jim
how I took
Harbaugh,
too in my
their new
mock.
head
Joe
coach,
Alt.
Joe Ortiz, their
It's a
new
culture
general
thing,
manager,
too.
of
They
course,
need to be able to
came
run the
from Baltimore
ball,
Ravens,
get
and
people
Greg
moving.
Roman, their new offensive coordinator. All three of them have waxed poetic about the importance of being physical and running the football.
6'8".
That leads me to believe that they would choose Joe Alt over a wide receiver like Malik Neighbors just because of the position that he plays. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think
I mean,
Joe
him on
moved
the
to
same
right
line as
tackle.
Rashawn
I think
Slater?
that's something where you say, do you take the left tackle, move him to right tackle? Do you take the right tackle, the pure right tackle? We have a couple in this draft. Is it too high for J.C. Latham from Alabama? A Fuaga from Oregon State's a really good player, but Latham is getting a lot of positive momentum and positive commentary right now as well coming out of Alabama. For Joe Alt, watch him every week. Certainly a guy who kept that frame between the defensive end and the quarterback, maintained a high level of efficiency week in and week out, play in and play out. He was getting the job done at a high level. I think certainly his father played in the NFL, John Alt coming out of Iowa with the Kansas City Chiefs. Joe Watt's going to go a lot higher in the draft than his dad did. I'm with you. I think the offensive
him or
line
Rashawn
area
Slater will move to
with
right
Justin
tackle.
Herbert, and you think about getting receiver. This is the deepest position in this draft is wide receiver field. We can find in the 5th, 6th round receivers going to help teams as 3rd, 4th options, maybe even a little bit better than that. So you can go 25 wide receivers deep with really good players in this draft. I think they'll get 1 or 2 and take advantage of that at some point.
Yeah.
Not taking Neighbors or Odunze. It's hard to pass up and overlook those guys, but certainly the offensive line is that critical need area. Brock Bowers would have to be in the
Dad plays
discussion
the
as
Chiefs.
well, but
Didn't know
I
that.
have no issue at all with them taking Joe Alt at this point.
Look at that. We're kind of agreeing on things so far. And by the way, people, we're talking about blue chip prospects. I have a list of players that I believe fit into that
There's
blue
so
chip
many good
category,
wide
however you want to
receivers
call it,
this
however you want to label it. Guys who are first round, top 10
They can take a
locks,
receiver in the
basically
second round. A
independent
good
of
one.
what draft year we are in.
Shore up the
Joe
offensive
Alt,
line here a little
part
bit.
of that group, as are the 4 players that went ahead of Joe Alt. So let's get to pick number 6 here, Mel, because I do think there is a follow-up conversation that I want to have because I don't think you're going to take the player that I have a question about. Who would you take if you were Joe Schoen, the Giants general manager, with pick 6 overall?
Yeah, I'm a Daniel Jones fan, and I think you get a
he's
big-time
blue chip
receiver.
for
You're
sure.
getting a guy who certainly could be. You can make a strong argument. You know, he could go even a little higher than this. You know, with the Chargers being a possibility there. You mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. and you think Malik Neighbors is right there. I happen to think Rome Odunze is very close. I'm a big Rome Odunze fan coming out of Washington. So you're really splitting hairs.
Giants at
Neighbors,
6, man.
Odunze. They got a choice. Whoever they like the most of those two has to be a New York Giant. I get it. There's an offensive line issue
Schoen,
there
talk
as
to
well.
me.
But the wide receiver position for Daniel Jones to get a guy like Odunze, to me, and that's where I would go. That's my
Daniel
pick
Jones,
here,
guys.
is Odunze for the New York Giants. He has the size, he has the ability with that catch radius to outdo cornerbacks for the football. He's so smooth. He's so, I think, deceptive with how he runs his routes. He's very difficult to handle in those situations. You go to a national championship game, he was open. Michael Penix Jr. wasn't able to get him the ball. Look at the consistency in terms of week in and week out. 5 or more catches in every game. Only game he did was 3 against Utah, and he had a couple touchdown receptions in this game. Nobody found a way to contain him. And people say, well, he had other great receivers. Well, Jalen McMillan wasn't healthy all year. Polk had a good year. Jalen Polk did, but he didn't have McMillan
So
healthy
Mel
the whole
prefers
season.
Odunze
Romo
here, not even
Odunze,
Neighbors.
everybody knew he was the number 1 guy. He was the guy we had to figure out a way to contain, and they could not do it. He is going to be a freakish talent when he starts testing, whenever he does it, Combine Pro Day. He can jump out of the building, and he has that size. He's, 215, 218 in that area. I'm a huge Romo Odunze fan. I give him the slight edge over Malik Neighbors, and it's really too close to call. I know your Neighbors guy feel, but I'm going Romo Odunze, wide receiver Washington to the New York Giants.
Yeah, I've got Neighbors wide receiver 2. Been consistent with that, as you have with Rome Odunze being wide receiver 2. I think all 3 of these guys, Mel, are borderline can't miss at the wide receiver spot, which is why I'm not trying to be disrespectful of the excellence, the brilliance of Marvin Harrison Jr. I just want people to know that I do think the gap between he and those next 2 wide receivers most specifically Malik Neighbors, is not so astronomical that Neighbors should be viewed as kind of like the other guy in this wide receiver dynamic. We have just a couple of minutes left here, Mel, before we get on to the next pick. I want to ask you something, and I want you to tell me whether you, Mel Kiper Jr., not the person who might be making this pick, think it's preposterous. The Giants may need a quarterback upgrade because while Daniel Jones, you're a fan of him, I think there are others who have questions about him. You're not going to get J.J. McCarthy if you wait until the second round. Would you ever consider making J.J. McCarthy the 6th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, or is that completely blasphemous?
It's kind of
preposterous.
Kind of hard to say that, and then they take Rome.
I can't go there. I think and I'll give you a couple of. First of all, I think it's too rich, way too rich for me for J.J. McCarthy in the top 6. Okay, if you're picking 6, you got to get a quarterback you believe is right there with Drake May.
Yeah.
If you're picking this high, and J.J. has a chance.
I have questions about Daniel
J.J.
Jones
down the line a little bit here. He's a tough one for me. I'm at 23 on my big board, but I think when you look at mock drafts and projecting where he'll go, I do think he's definitely going to be QB4.
It's too. You can't take J.J.
I will say this: Daniel Jones to me is and will be, when we look back to the careers of Daniel Jones and J.J. McCarthy, Daniel Jones is going to be a better quarterback. Daniel Jones
they've got
shown he can be a
tons of money
NFL
tied up in him, and they're screwed. Don't get me wrong, but
he needs help.
Don't make it worse by taking another QB at 6.
The Giants get more help, stay healthier, okay? Get guys healthy, get it together, maintain some consistency, and Daniel Jones is the right man for the job.
You know, at the end of part of the interruption when Tony Kornheiser waves the Canadian flag, that might be me waving the white flag here on Daniel Jones, Mel.
23
I'm
nervous.
I'm nervous. The turnover is just far too prolific during his time, and now he's got an ACL tear on top of 2 neck injuries. I wouldn't take a quarterback at 6th overall as well, but I understand that GMs and coaches are under pressure, so I'm just saying, crazier thoughts have entered my mind than the Giants reaching for a quarterback early in round.
Mel Kiper just said Daniel Jones is going to have a better career than J.J. McCarthy.
Draft in just a moment. All right, we are back here on First Draft. He is Mel Kiper Jr. I am Field Yates, and the exercise is straightforward. First 12 picks of the 2024 NFL Draft.
Yeah.
Mel is the evens. I am the odds, which means that I am back on the clock with the Tennessee Titans. And I feel a little bit uneasy, Mel, because there are parts of me that feels like some of the first 10 picks of the NFL Draft should be straightforward if the team follows what we believe is right, more so than the average top 10. This is one of those picks where it feels like this one should be sprinting the card right to Commissioner Goodell. Tennessee Titans take Malik Neighbors, number 7 overall, wide receiver out of LSU. This guy had 27 forced missed tackles last season, Mel, and he's the most explosive
Field
player
Yates at 7,
in the
Tennessee
entire
Titans.
NFL Draft. He's the closest that I can think of from a wide receiver.
80% of the time, 90% of the time.
Is explosive as Tyreek Hill.
But
when you watch him, you see
Joe Alt's
traces,
gone.
you see shades,
Olu
you see signs, you see brief
Talisi
moments where you say
Fuaga.
to yourself, that guy runs away from
If
defensive
they're gonna
players a la Tyreek Hill. He does not.
They're going to keep Will Levis for one more year. They got
He gets the football, and he is off to the race.
There's a receiver going here.
Touchdown catches this past
I guess
season.
Malik Neighbors
For
falls.
Malik
That doesn't happen
Neighbors,
very
big
often.
boost after just 3 the year prior. I think there's a case for him as a clear-cut top 5.
This is one of the few
player
mocks
in
I've
the
not
NFL
seen a tackle
draft
go here.
for the Titans, who need wide receivers in a major
Will
way
Levis
to
has no
continue to
vision.
help.
Can't
Will
see his
Levis,
blind side
along with
at
some
all.
offensive line reinforcements.
He only
I think
sees front side
Malik Neighbors
pressure.
would be a terrific home run pick here for Rand Carthon, their GM at pick 7. What do you think?
Yeah, a couple things here, Field. I think they really hit with Will Levis. I mean, getting him in the second round, you talk about saving money on your quarterback.
From a
help
dynasty
you,
perspective?
address other positions, and Will
Dynasty
Levis
fantasy football?
showed this year when of course he got hurt. That
If
he
Malik
has
Neighbors goes
everything
to
it
the
takes. From
Tennessee
an arm
Titans?
strength standpoint, we knew he had that mobility, the want to, the toughness, the desire,
know.
the smarts. He has it all. So for Brian Callahan,
I don't know if I could use a
you got the
top
right quarterback
5
here. The O-line
first-round
was
rookie draft
awful,
pick on him
Awful.
when he goes to the
I
Tennessee
watch
Titans.
this
I don't
team on a
know.
regular basis. They could not protect Will Levis. Ryan Tannehill didn't matter. Will Levis was getting beaten up.
I don't
every
really like
game. It's
Odunze
amazing
to the
he got
Giants
where
either.
He did before he went down. He tried to even play through that injury. It was the same thing at Kentucky. Will can't get any luck on the offensive line.
That's why
front.
MHJ is going number 1
Offensive line
because
his final year at
the
Kentucky,
quarterback.
terrible
Like, he's going to
offensive
Kyler
line his
Murray.
first year
He's
with
the 101 right
Tennessee
now in
Titans.
Dynasty
So
rookie
they
drafts.
have to address that position. They have to get a lot better up front. Skoronski last year can be a really good guard, but they got to get help outside, and they can not block any anybody. It was Ole block after Ole block. I'm with you at this point on Neighbors. Neighbors will be that dynamic weapon for Will Levis. Traylon Burks has not emerged. Remember, A.J. Brown's dealt. They drafted
Although
Traylon
they
Burks
need a guy like this.
He has not emerged yet.
Olu
as
Fashanu,
any type of
Talisi
big-time
Fuaga,
weapon. Okay, DeAndre Hopkins, still a good player, right? But they need a guy like Neighbors, no question. But the O-line has to be a major point of emphasis, both in free agency and in the draft. Obviously, if Joe Alt were there, they would jump at that opportunity. We have him off the board. You got him going a little earlier. I'm with you on the wide receiver, but they got to get that offensive line better.
Yeah, no question about it, Mel. And I think they're going to probably end up cutting Andre Dillard at some point early in free agency. Their swing last year from Philadelphia, signing a 3-year deal. I imagine he is not long for Tennessee, which means they're going to need a new left tackle at some point.
A.J. Brown to Traylon Burks.
Top of round 2.
Talk about
Let's
taking
pick
an
number
L.
8, Mel, and I think things get very interesting here as still no defensive players taken. We've had 3 quarterbacks. We've had 3 wide receivers, plus a big offensive tackle. You're now the Atlanta Falcons, who have gone back-to-back years with the 8th pick, previously used on Drake London, and then last year on Bijan Robinson. How about now? Who are you taking under new head coach Raheem Morris?
This is a tricky one because this team has no quarterback right now.
Yeah.
A quarterback that you can win with moving forward, right? And then it's always tempting. We said, you're going to reach for J.J. McCarthy. I'm not if I'm the Giants. I'm not if I'm Atlanta. Yeah, I think last year they should have drafted Will Levis. If they had Will Levis, wouldn't have been having this discussion about quarterbacks right now. They would have had their guy. You can find the running backs in the draft every year. But they went with Bijan.
Tennessee's second-round pick would be 38?
Huge quarterback issue. Okay, you're in a division
could be
where
some
you put
tackles
Will
left
Levis
on the
on his
board,
team
but-
and you build around them. They got something.
You
there
know
with
there will be
Wilson,
wide
kind of sick.
receivers on the
Now
board,
you think about the defense.
Take
You
a
don't
top
take
tackle
quarterback
here.
You either
got
try
Peter
to move up,
Skoronski, the
if you can
guard they
move up
drafted
and
last
get
year in the first
Caleb
round. They could
or
be the left
Jaden or
guard.
Drake, I
Get a
would be
nice left
aggressive
tackle
where
in
I
there,
land,
shore
try
up his
to do
weak
that.
side,
You're sitting at 8.
his
You
blind
cannot
side.
move up. I'm not taking J.J.
Take receivers in the
McCarthy at
second
8.
round.
It's too high for me. I got to improve the defense. Need the pass rusher. Who's the best defensive player in this draft? Terrion Arnold runs good 40, Combine Pro Day. Terrion Arnold, cornerback Alabama, will be in this discussion in that top 10 to 15, no doubt about that. But Dallas Turner had the kind of year field that he needed to. Will Anderson Jr. moves on. Who's going to be the guys? Can he be that guy? And he was. He had done it early on. Then he had this, the year prior to that, 2022, where he wasn't as good.
It'll be
Anderson
great
getting after the
for
quarterback. This year, he took his game
Justin
to
Fields
a
to go
new
there.
level. Both
Great
being
for football,
consistent
great for
week in and
dynasty
week out,
fantasy
being
football.
a guy who got after the quarterback, both in terms of beating that tackle out of the blocks and being relentless.
Chicago needs
in
more
terms
picks
of
anyway.
getting
Ask
after
for
that
like a
quarterback
second
and
and a
getting coverage
fifth or
sacks.
something like that.
He was a guy was getting his hands on that quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay, he was affecting the quarterback. The quarterback felt Dallas Turner in that area getting
I have
after
Dallas
him.
Turner
So for
and
the Atlanta Falcons,
Jared Verse
Dallas
going in most of my
Turner,
mocks here,
pass
so
rusher, outside backer
I agree.
out of Alabama.
First defensive guy off the board.
Overall, and I think he is the best defensive player in this draft.
How about Leatu Latu, Mel? I don't want to just sit here and tell you the entire time I agree, great assessment, because I think everything you said, I understand. Is Leatu Latu not a better player right now than Dallas Turner? What breaks the tie for you between those two edge rushers?
I think it's the question with the neck of the medical. Latu had a heck of a year. Latu is a natural pass rusher. I think, but the medical, yeah, if that comes out clean, I'm with you. Latu, you could argue, is right there with Dallas Turner, maybe even a little ahead. But Dallas Turner had a heck of a year. Don't take anything away from Turner and the kind of player he is. Yeah. He had one whale of a season. He had done it early on in his career as well. He had put up good numbers. But certainly for Latu, I agree. I think he is a really good player. He's going to go somewhere between the middle portion of the first round and the later portion of round 1, depending upon what your medical staff feels. How do they feel about Latu after everything's been done at the combine? You do all your due diligence there. Remember, Jalen Phillips had an injury question coming out of Miami. He went around that 18th spot. So I think top 10 is a little high because of that question mark. That's why Dallas Turner gets the edge here.
All right, well, top 10 might be a little bit too high in your eyes, Mel, but it's not in mine, baby. Is with pick number 9 in our little mini mock draft here. Me, once again, acting as Ryan Poles, is going to take Leatu Latu, the edge, the pass rusher from UCLA, and had an incredible season, really an incredible 2-year run at UCLA. Keep in mind this very important parts of the equation. The Chicago Bears, even after acquiring Montez Sweat, who was awesome with 6.5 sacks, still were second
improvement regardless.
in the NFL
They went
in terms
offense
of
the last
fewest
3
sacks.
years,
So I
right?
guess 31st
Pitts.
is the proper way of putting it.
I think Drake London,
Leatu Latu
Bijan.
is just born to rush the
Our
pass.
Bears.
Coming out of college,
Bears
I
with
find
no
that there are two
Odunze.
things that we see most often with pass rushers. Usually
they
it's the
took
guys
defense
who are
here.
just too fast to be blocked, or it's the guys that are just too big to be blocked. Neither of those things applies to Leatu Latu. He's 6'5", 265 pounds. He's not going to blow you away with his overall stature, Mel. And he is not this freak athlete like Dallas Turner might well prove he is during his week in Indianapolis. But
Bears need pass rush.
Is just so nuanced in his pass rushing ability. He knows how
second to last in
get
sacks
around
with Montez Sweat
tackles.
coming over.
I am convinced that there
They
is
need
one
pass
way,
rush. This is
and one way only,
good
the
pick.
teams in the Pac-12
Odunze and Neighbors off the board. Then get another receiver in the second round.
Leatu Latu. And that was to throw 3
They
bodies.
don't have a second round pick, actually, so they got Sweat. They can get one in the third, probably, like pick 75, something like that.
In this year's class, ended up having a bunch of run-free sacks. That's the kind of impact that Leatu Latu had on this UCLA defense this past year. I think he is a ready-made starter for the Chicago Bears. I understand the medical side of it. I'm not a doctor. Maybe we'll find out more during this week in Indianapolis. But for now, assuming he checks out cleanly, I still think he's the best prospect, excluding health, in this entire class. On defense.
Disagree with your field. 9th pick, you got to get a guy inside your top 9. I can't see Latu being rated on a board in that 6, 7, 8 range. Who do I see that high? Brock Bowers. We haven't talked Brock Bowers enough yet. Brock Bowers, you say, well, Cole Kmet, right? We have, well, it's Justin Fields or Caleb Williams. I don't care what you decide to do there. Fields, Williams. Brock Bowers is not a tight end. He's a move-him-around weapon, okay? He can do anything you want. You can line him up anywhere you want on a football field. All this kid's going to do is make big play after big play. He's fast. He has a sixth sense about things on a football field that all the great ones have. He is a guy that defenses could not even figure out a way to contain. Everything went through him with that offense at Georgia. Certainly Ladd McConkey, a heck of a player as well. But Brock Bowers, because he can do everything.
Mel Kiper just said that was a trash pick, Yates.
Nightmare for defenses to try to handle. If I'm the Bears, and
I'll admit, I haven't seen Leatu Latu go at 9.
He's on the board.
Or top 10.
I'm doing,
especially with the
Caleb
health
Williams
stuff.
or Justin Fields are jumping up and down saying, yes, I got a big-time weapon for my offense to help me out.
Well, you just took my pick, so we'll find out whether Brock Bowers is one of Mel's picks. Coming up next.
Chicago has Cole Kmet. I don't think. I mean, I feel like he's been a good tight end.
All right, we're back here on First Draft, and we're going to wrap up our top 12 picks. Mel is the GM of the even teams. I am the GM of the odd teams. The New York Jets are on the clock here, Mel. You have the even pick, so you have the Jets. And this is an interesting one because more so than any team that we have discussed so far, this team not just wants to, but needs to win this year with Aaron Rodgers going into his age 40 season. What is GM Joe Douglas going to do?
Well, he's got the options. He's got some great options here right now, Field, because the offensive line is a big issue. Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Hopefully going to give them 2 great years, right?
10, 11, and 12.
You're swinging for the fences with Aaron. A Super Bowl, that's what you want, right? Aaron Rodgers has been to one, he won it. He's been to 1 Super Bowl. That's what you want. You got to protect him. Coming back to the injury, 40 years of age, come on. You got to get the O-line, but there's Brock Bowers, according to this. You didn't take him, Field.
That's right. It's all yours, Adam.
Similar
Brock Bowers
team
at 9,
here.
Right? So here's Brock Bowers.
I've seen them go offensive line.
I would look at Brock Bowers. That would be my guy. I'm taking, and within seconds, I'm getting that card in to take Brock Bowers. But do they look at an offensive line, a natural right tackle like maybe J.C. Latham from Alabama, who's still there? His stock is rising, right? Mentioned Fuaga from Oregon State.
Fuaga,
right tackle. Stock
here?
has been rising all year. So the O-line is going to be in the mix. I'm a big Brock Bowers guy. That's got to be, for me, it's Brock Bowers.
Okay, Brock Bowers, I disagree. I think the Jets just with their current situation, absolutely, unequivocally, must find a player that can protect Aaron Rodgers. Right tackle, left tackle,
Garrett
doesn't
Wilson,
matter to
Alan
me, but it's got to be a
Brock
guy
Bowers,
who can step in and
Breece
protect
Hall.
Aaron Rodgers and do so right away, by the way, Mel, which is why. Well, if I were the one making the pick, and I'm not, of course, I think there is a strong case for Tyler Guyton as having the second most upside of any offensive tackle in this year's entire class. But Talisi Fuaga, you mentioned him from Oregon State, might just be that much more ready-made, where if your clock needs to start right now, I get the Fuaga tiebreaker. I don't want to argue Brock Bowers. I still love the kid. I feel bad for him. I've already written him multiple personal apology notes because he didn't go high enough in my mock draft 1.0. I just think the Jets need to consider
he needs to be protected.
Allocating resources
Mekhi
to
Becton has had injury concerns. Elijah Vera Tucker.
They can do fine with Tyler Conklin continuing to be their starting tight end in 2024. This
Doing fine's not good enough, Field.
Doing fine, that's right. Well, no. Doing fine there, but being a whole lot better at right tackle, Mel. That's a trade that I'm willing to make.
And I'll say that, but Guyton needs to be coached up. Guyton's a work in progress. They need somebody ready to play immediately, and I think that would be more J.C. Latham from Alabama.
Yeah, that's why, listen, I'm saying, if I could make the pick and I had the opportunity to wait, Tyler Guyton, who's basically got 1 full year playing as a starter at the college level, I think the upside is so tantalizing.
From a fantasy perspective, I don't hate the landing spot.
Not every team, especially the Jets, can afford to win.
I'd rather Brock Bowers go to the Jets than
So now things get interesting.
to Chicago, I guess.
Excuse me, the Minnesota Vikings on the clock here. Pick number 11. Quarterback question, of course. If Kirk Cousins returns, then that's not a quarterback question. But if he walks,
Or let him fall to that like 17, 18, 19 range, right? Cincinnati.
I'm going to continue to operate on the
Rams.
presumption, Mel, that Kirk Cousins will be back this upcoming year in Minnesota. So that brings me to Jared Verse. Florida State, pass rusher, Minnesota Vikings, pick number 11 overall. Jared Verse had yet another strong season for the Seminoles, was probably maybe a touch better the year prior, but came out in the first week against LSU, went gangbusters there, had an incredible finish to the season in the ACC championship game. Long, powerful, versatile. This is a guy who's come a long way, Mel, from being a redshirt. He redshirted as a tight end in Albany 5 seasons ago. A player that a lot of us thought could have come out last year, instead returned for one more season with the Seminoles, a defense that was absolutely dominant and could have half a dozen guys drafted from this past year's roster. 9 sacks this past season, Mel. Don't know that the upside athletically is quite at the same level as somebody like Dallas Turner, but I do think he gives the Vikings, who have both Danielle Hunter and DJ Wonnum scheduled to become free agents, both very talented pass rushers. Of course, Hunter, one of the best in all of football. This would be some insurance against one or both of those guys departing in free agency. Thoughts on Jared Verse?
Jared's a tough one. I think there's mixed opinions
6'4",
for a
260.
reason. I think he is that powerful defensive end, pass rusher, no question about it. But I think when you look at where he will be in the NFL against these elite, best-in-the-world offensive tackles, can he be able to handle that? Can he be able to get that double? You're looking for double-digit sacks. Can he get to that point in the National Football League? The potential's there. You speak to people in the league, there is mixed opinion on Jared Verse. Some say lock first round. Some say we're later first round. I think he does go in the middle of the first round field. I do think he has to be in the discussion here for the Minnesota Vikings. You mentioned Hunter, right? He could be moving on. You think about where we are in the NFL with pass rushers, that's what you have to have. But you also have to have cover guys. There's a corner named Terrion Arnold out of Alabama who is a heck of a player, and if he runs well. We talk about Keon Coleman, wide receiver, Florida State, needs to run well. So does cornerback Terrion Arnold. If he does, based on his performance this past year, intercepting passes, breaking up passes, getting his hands on everything, tackling, fourth leading tackler field. This kid's aggressive, he's versatile, he's vocal, he's energetic, coached by Nick Saban.
That's where I've been having him in my mocks, middle to late first.
Guys for good reason. To me, Terrion Arnold, where is your grade on Arnold as opposed to Verse in terms of the board? I think that, because they're both needs. Verse and Arnold, how they stack up on the board, I think determines what this pick ends up being.
Yeah, and my board, Mel, it actually isn't that close. I jammed a need here. That's what I did. I jammed a need for the Minnesota Vikings.
Keon Coleman did not run well.
Because Terrion Arnold is like 6 or 7 spots higher than Jared Verse in my overall top 25 board, which will soon expand to top 50, by the way, to get more guys who are not going to go in the first round.
I didn't love Keon Coleman in the combine.
In the conversation. I went back and forth on this for a very specific reason. What Brian Flores was able to do last year, scheming his way to a much improved defense and devaluing certain spots or extracting the maximum out of certain spots, was nothing short of remarkable. I think he was a worthy candidate to be in the discussion for the best defensive coach or best assistant coach and all of the NFL.
It's hard to not prioritize team need over best player available.
Murphy, the other Byron Murphy, the guy that was drafted a handful of years ago, now plays for the Minnesota Vikings, was a solid free agent addition. And they kind of just found a way at that cornerback spot, perhaps better than I would have expected them to, based off of how I would just rate the raw talent there. Terrion Arnold, very tantalizing. Good call right there. You've already made me rethink my pick. But I want to leave time for pick number 12 now, because this is where I think things get spicy. The Denver Broncos, 12th overall pick. I have a sense of what you're going to do. What will your decision be?
My decision, after all is said and done, in terms of the mock, is I think we got to tell people who we think. If it goes the way we're saying, Field, and you brought his name up as consideration early. Now though it's too early, and I still think this is too early for me. I would move down, but then the worry is somebody's going to get him. He's a quarterback. I love his competitiveness. He just turned 21.
D-tackle.
He did everything Jim Harbaugh asked him to do. It's J.J. McCarthy. I'm with you. I'm not going to go any different direction here. Denver is in a division.
I'm personally a Denver fan.
There's a conference with a lot of really good ones to great ones, right? You got to get the quarterback here.
Coming
and J.J. McCarthy, I
short.
feel like Peyton had Drew Brees, right, out of the Big Ten. J.J. McCarthy out of the Big Ten. J.J. brings that desire to be great, that competitiveness, that ability to run, beat you with his legs, extend plays. He threw the football, I thought, in a lot of games very well. Some receivers let him down. He did not have anything close to a Marvin Harrison Jr. No go-to. Roman Wilson's a nice player. What's he, a third, fourth round pick? Maybe third round pick.
It was a top 8 offensive line last year.
They were a run-oriented team.
I think like 65% of the sacks were Russ's fault.
And when he needed to make plays, he did. He didn't throw interceptions.
Weapons are a concern.
A couple key ones that we remember, but not many
Sutton,
interceptions during his
Jerry
career.
Jeudy, like we don't know.
He's very young. I'll go here. I'll stretch it at this point at 12 with the Denver Broncos taking quarterback J.J. McCarthy from Michigan.
Yeah, and there's a draft capital problem for Denver too, by the way, right, Mel? They've got 6 total picks. No second-round pick. Where are you getting a quarterback if it's not at pick 12? History tells you betting on it in the third round is usually a long shot bet. JJ will continue to be the most difficult evaluation in the entire draft.
I mean, Denver needs to be able to run the ball.
Last week's show in that very same context, there is certainly a lot to like, Mel. The question is this. We have seen a larger sample size.
Javonte would need 20 touches a game, and
in this class,
they need to be efficient.
Playing under duress, playing in gotta-have-it situations, playing from behind in the fourth quarter. Things that are going to happen to a young quarterback who's being taken in the top 12 because
we're probably going to pay
exactly the top
Russell Wilson.
Of the food chain teams.
Like we're paying him to play for another
McCarthy
team this year.
Is a very good athlete. His ball placement is terrific.
Pittsburgh, I think, makes the most sense.
By all accounts,
I prefer Fields to go to Atlanta.
There's a lot to like about what J.J. McCarthy brings to the table, but I don't know how many times we can say it without us sounding repetitive and redundant. He is a tricky evaluation because the sample size and some of those critical factors is just so small, Mel. It is just so small. It's a roll of the dice. But if you're Sean Payton, I don't know that you have any other choice there, Mel, because if you don't take him now, you're not getting him later. And I don't think there's any quarterback in the third round that I would feel comfortable saying he's the guy going.
I'm going to go ahead and cut it off there. Yeah, I mean,
I think Bo Nix,
first 12 picks, some I like, some I really didn't like. I personally don't like Rome Odunze to the Giants there. I don't like Malik Neighbors to Tennessee there. Obviously, they're mocking this a little bit for TV, so, they're getting a little bit more aggressive. Leatu Latu at pick 9. Like, these are just a few things I'm not seeing. And I think we're going to end up seeing some safer picks or some trades where they're not feeling confident, even if they're just moving back a couple spots. I think it has to almost certainly be offensive line for Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans. I mean, you got Peter Skoronski at left guard. Go get a left tackle. We know that Will's one of his worst things is his blind side. I mean, how many hits and sacks did he take last year from the blind side, right? So, hopefully he can develop a little bit more. Chig is a decent tight end. I think D-Hop will be back one more year. Hopefully Treylon can turn into something. And then they have that other young guy they drafted last year who hasn't done much. But yeah, that Derrick Henry shouldn't be on the team. They're not going to be a run-first team as much. I mean, hopefully Tajay Spears can turn into something here, but it's going to be a tough new coaching regime. Yeah, it's going to be tough. All right, well, that's it. Hopefully you like some of my takes on there. That was Mel Kiper and Field Yates' most recent mock draft where they just went through the first 12 picks. I will put out another one of these when they make changes post-NFL Combine. It just finished yesterday. It's March 3rd. And we'll take it from there. But yeah, thanks for tuning in to another video of 4th and Inches. Like and subscribe for more. Talk soon.